Hi, 16th day of 30 days reading challenge. Today I am reading The Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky, Part 3, Chapter 3, page number 228. Razumohin bowed, positively radiant for one moment. They were all strangely embarrassed. Goodbye, Rodia, till that is till we meet. I, I do not like saying goodbye. Goodbye, Nasir. Ah, I have said goodbye again. Luceria Alexandrovna meant to greet Sonia too, but it somehow failed to come off, and she went in a flutter out of the room. But Avodya Romanova seemed to await her turn, and following her mother out, gave Sonia an attentive, courteous bow. Sonia, in confusion, gave a hurried, frightened curtsy. There was a look of poignant discomfort in her face, as though Avortia Romanova curtsy and attention were oppressive and painful to her. Dunya, goodbye, said Raskolnikov in the passage. Give me your hand. Why? Why I did give it to you? Have you forgotten? Said Tommy, turning warmly and awkwardly to him. Never mind. Give it to me again. And he squeezed his finger warmly. Dunya smiled, flushed, pulled her hand away and went off quite happy. Come, that's capital, he said to Sonia, going back and looking brightly at her. God give peace to the dead, and living have still to live. That's it, right, isn't it? Sonia looked surprised at the sudden brightness of his face. He looked at her for some moment in silence. The whole history of the dead father floated before his memory in those moments. Heavens, Donia, Plucheria began as soon as they were in the street. I really feel relieved myself at coming away more at ease. How little did I think yesterday in the train that I could ever be glad of that. I tell you again, mother, he is still very ill. Don't you see it? Perhaps worrying about us upset him. We must be patient, and much, much can be forgiven. Well, you were not very patient. Lucelia Alexandrovna caught her up hotly and jealously. Do you know, Dunya, I was looking at you too. You are the very portrait of him, and not so much in face as in soul. You are both you are both melancholy, both morose and hot tempered, bothly haughty and both generous. Surely he can't be an egoist, Donia. When I think of what is in store for us this evening, my heart skips. Don't be uneasy, mother. What must be will be. Dunya, only think what a position we are in. What if Pater Petrovich breaks it off? Poor Pulcheria Alexandrovna blurted out incautiously. He won't be worth much if he does, answered Dunya sharply and contemptuously. We did well to come away. Pulcheria Alexandrovna hurriedly broke in. He was in a hurry about some business or other. If he gets out and has a breath of air, it is fearfully close in his room. But where is one to get a breath of air here? The very street here feels like shut up room. Good heavens, what a town! Stay, they said. They will crush you, carrying something. Why? It is a piano they have got, I declare. How they push. I am very much afraid of that young woman too. What you young woman, mother? Why that Sophia Sanovona, who was there just now? Why? I have a presentiment. I have a presentiment, Dunya. Well, you may believe it or not, but as soon as she came in that very minute, I felt that she was the chief cause of the trouble. Nothing of that sort, cried Dunya in vexation. What nonsense with your presentiments, mother. He only made her acquaintance the evening before, and he did not know her when she came. Well, you will see. She worries me, but you will see. You will see. I was so frightened. She was gazing at me with those eyes. I could scarcely sit still in my chair. When he began introducing her, do you remember? It seemed so strange, but Peter Petrovich writes like that about, and he introduces her to us, to you. So he must think a great deal of her. People will write anything. We were talked about it, written about too. Have you forgotten? I am sure that she is a good girl, and that it is all nonsense. God, God grant it may be. And Peter Petrovich is a contemptible slender. Donia snapped out suddenly. Prashovia Alexandrovna was crushed. The conversation was not resumed. I will tell you what I think, what I want with you, said Raskolnikov, drawing Razumohin to the window. Then I will tell Katerina Ivanovna that you are coming. Sonia said hurriedly, preparing to depart. 1 minute, Sophia Semyonovna. We have no secrets. You are not in our way. I want to have another word or two with you. Listen. He turned suddenly to Razumohin again. You know that. What's his name? Profi Petrovich. I should think so. He is a relation. Why? Added the latter with interest. Is not he managing that case you know about that murder? You were speaking about it yesterday. Yes. Well, Razumohin's eyes opened wide. He was inquiring for people who had pawned things, and I have some pledges there too. Trifle. A ring my sister gave me as a keepsake when I left home, and my father's silver watch. They are all only worth 5 or 6 rubles altogether, but I value them. So what am I to do now? I do not want to lose the things, especially the watch. I was quaking just now, for fear mother would ask to look at it. When, when we spoke of Dunia's watch, it is the only thing of father's left us. She would be ill if it were lost. You know that women are. So tell me what to do. I know I ought to have given notice at the police station, but would it not be better to go straight to Periphery? Uh, what do you think? The matter might be settled more quickly. You see, mother may ask for it for dinner. Certainly not to the police station. Certainly to Porphyry. Razumohin shouted in extraordinary excitement. Well, how glad I am. Let us go at once. It is a couple of street. We shall be sure to find him. Very well, let us go. And he will be very, very glad to make your acquaintance. I have often talked to him of you at different times. I was speaking of you yesterday. Let us go. So you knew the old woman. So that's it. It is all turning out splendidly. Oh yes, Sofia Ivanovna. Sofia Semyonovna corrected Raskolnikov. Sofia Semyonovna, this is my friend Razumovin. He is a good man. If you have to go now, Sonia was beginning, not looking at Razumovin at all, and still more embarrassed. Let us go, decided Raskolnikov. I will come to you today, Sofia Semyonovna. Only tell me where you live. He was not exactly ill at ease, but seemed hurried and avoided her eyes. Sonia gave her address and flushed as she did so. They all went out together. Don't you lock up? Asked Rosamohin, following him to the stair. Never, answered Raskolnikov. I have been meaning to buy a lock for these 2 years. People are happy who have no needs of locks, he said, laughing to Sonia. They stood still in the gateway. Do you go to the right, Sofia Semyonovna? How did you find me, by the way? He added, as though he wanted to say something quite different. He wanted to look at her soft, clear eyes, but this way was not easy. Why you gave your address to Polina yesterday? Oh yes, Polina. That is the little girl. She is your sister. Did I give her the address? Why? Had you forgotten? No, I remember. I had heard my father speak of you. Only I did not know your name, and he did not know it. And now I came, and as I had learnt your name, I asked today, where does Mr. Raskolnikov live? I did not know you had only a room. Goodbye. I will tell Katerina Ivanovna. She is extremely glad to escape at last. She went away looking down, hurrying to get out of sight as soon as possible, to walk the 20 steps to the turning on the right, and to be at last alone, and then moving rapidly along, looking at no one, noticing nothing, to think, to remember, to meditate on every word, every detail. No, never had she felt anything like this. Dimly and unconsciously, a whole new world was opening before her. She remembered suddenly that Raskolnikov meant to come to her that day, perhaps at once. Only not today. Please, not today. She kept muttering with a sinking heart, as though entreating someone, like a frightened child. Mercy to me, to that room. He will see, oh dear. She was not capable at that instant of noticing an unknown gentleman who was watching her and following her at her heels. He had accompanied her from the gateway at the moment when Razumovin, Raskolnikov, and she stood still at parting on the pavement. The gentleman who was just passing started on hearing Sonia's word, and I asked where Mr. Raskolnikov lived. He turned a rapid but attentive look upon the all three, especially upon Raskolnikov, to whom Sonia was speaking, then looked back and noted the house. All this was done in an instant as he passed, and trying not to betray his interest, he walked no more slowly as though waiting for something. He was waiting for Sonia. He saw that they were parting, and that Sonia was going home. Home where I have seen that face somewhere, he thought. He must find out. At her turning, he crossed over, looked around, and saw Sonia coming the same way. Noticing nothing, she turned the corner. He followed her on the other side. After about 50 paces, he crossed over again, overtook her, and kept 2 or 3 yards behind her. He was a man about 50, rather tall, and thickly set, with broad high shoulders, which made him look as though he stopped a little. He wore good and fashionable clothes, and looked like a gentleman of position. He carried a handsome cane, which he tapped on the pavement at each step. His clothes were spotless. He had a broad, rather pleasant face with high cheekbones and a fresh color, not often seen in Petersburg. His flaxen hair was still abundant and only touched here and there with grey, and his eyes and his thick square beard was even lighter than his hair. His eyes were blue. His eyes were blue and had a cold and thoughtful look. His lips were crimson. He was a remarkably well-preserved man and looked much younger than his years. When Sonia came out on the canal bank, they were the only two persons on the pavement. He observed her dreaminess and preoccupation. On reaching the house where she lodged, Sonia turned in at the gate. He followed her, seeming rather surprised. In the courtyard, she turned to the right corner. Bah, muttered the unknown gentleman, and mounted the stairs behind her. Only then Sonia noticed. She reached the third story, turned down the passage, and rang at number 9. On the door was inscribed in chalk, Capon of Taylor. Ah, the stranger repeated again, wondering at the strange coincidence, and he rang next door at number 8. The doors were 2 or 3 yards apart. You lodge at Capon House, he said, looking at Sonia's and laughing. He altered a waistcoat for me yesterday. I am staying close here at I am staying close here at Madme Residence. How odd. Sonia looked at him attentively. We are neighbors, he went on gaily. I only came to town the day before yesterday. Goodbye for the present. Sonia made no reply. The door opened and she slipped in. She felt for some reason ashamed and uneasy. On the way to Prori Free, Rasamohin was obviously excited. That's capital, brother, he repeated several times. And I am glad, I am glad. What are you glad about? Raskolnikov thought to himself.